Oh, and we are live. What's up, wrestling fans? It is a very special Easter edition of the Two Bros Wrestling Show rolling into WrestleMania. Kevin, how are you doing, brother?
It is Easter. It's unusual. Easter falls this early, but it is a bit of the start of a holy week if you are a wrestling fan, because it's WrestleMania week. We are here, and that is our main event topic. We are talking WrestleMania 40, running down every match, giving our predictions. Hard to believe that we are on the cusp, Doug, of the biggest weekend in all of sports and entertainment.
It is crazy that and the way this year has come together. It's pretty awesome. I got to say, it is.
I
Pretty
can't wait to
awesome.
talk about it. But before we can talk about it,
Let's ring that bell.
it is Easter, and so I think probably only appropriate that on a holiday where millions around the globe celebrate the biggest comeback of all time. We begin tonight with another man who also inherited his father's business, but his second coming is not going so well. Of course, I'm referring to Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Oh, wow. Okay, what's Vince done this week? How many more millions has
Well,
he sold off in corporate stock? Is that what we're going to talk about?
we got a twofer for Vince because, yes, we first catch up on the sex trafficking scandal. There's obviously many who have wondered the fate of that docu-series that Netflix was working on. One time early on, it seemed Vince and WWE were having some input in this documentary that was being put together by Bill Simmons. Then, of course, comes the Vince scandal. WWE pretty much disowning him, getting into business with Netflix. A lot of folks thought that's probably the end of that. But this
Right.
week we received word that despite everything, the series is not only still expected, but production is continuing on what now we can imagine is a no holds barred look that is going to have a little different ending than what they had originally intended. All this
Cool.
despite WWE spending, getting billions of dollars from Netflix. Netflix apparently is still going forward with the tell-all. So the fact that we are way past date obviously owns a lot to the fact that there's a lot of rewrites going on. This should have already been out by now, but kind of good to know they're still continuing it. It's going to be a fascinating story. Obviously, we have to wait to see how it ends.
So Vince has become like the Voldemort of TKO at this point. They can't, name him, but he is. Do you think this whole Netflix thing,
Voldemort.
since they're going to be on Netflix and everything, and this Netflix docuseries will be there, that there's more of a positive spin going on into it, and maybe TKO leans into a little bit to distance themselves from Vince during this documentary?
I think by the fact that they're selling out the man that built the empire is maybe Netflix's way of also showing that
Yeah,
WWE is not Vince McMahon's company anymore, and
right.
that's why we don't care to throw him under the bus, as it were.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
But just in case anyone out there is worried about old Vince, Doug, I think you teed us up real well up front. Vince McMahon keeps building that war chest for the likely payout that's going to come due as a result of his sex trafficking lawsuit. We reported earlier this month that Vince had sold a bit of stock to the tune of $408 million. Well, now he's sold a bit more, 3.5 million shares this time, netting just a paltry 100 million this go around.
Just 100 million.
Since November, Vince has made 1.2 billion. That's with a B, $billion by selling TKO stock. So just, for those of you who wondered if there was any justice in the world, yeah, probably not. Probably not. Speaking of no justice, last week we reported on Jack Perry and his punishment from Tony Khan. This week we have some clarifications from Jungle Boy himself on those various reports in response to the stories that claimed that Tony Khan was still holding a grudge against Perry due to the loss of CM Punk, of all things. Perry reached out to the
No.
Wrestling Observer to sort of clear the air with his side of things. And according to Perry, it was 2 months following All In at London's Wembley Stadium before he had even heard a word from Tony Khan. Perry said he never texted Khan to say he was sorry, which was some, wrestling journalists had been reporting that, Jungle Jack is on the phone every day saying, take me back. I'm sorry. He says he's never apologized. Doesn't see a reason why he would.
Right.
Perry said that, in fact, he had told Khan's lawyers that he would not initiate first contact. Khan finally did set up an in-person that Jack Perry attended right before Full Gear in Los Angeles, where they discussed plans to bring bring Perry back last December. Before that happened, though, Punk shows up on WWE at Survivor Series. Jack Perry says he never heard from Tony Khan again. Those plans were scrapped. Rocky Romero having that contact in New Japan is what got Jack Perry work over there. And Perry said he asked for his release from AEW and it was denied. He also claims he has cleared nothing by AEW or Tony Khan regarding his New Japan gimmick of being the scapegoat or tearing up his AEW contract on camera. He swears all that is a shoot and that he has not heard a word from Tony Khan.
I don't even know where to start with this one because it should be a work. All this should be a work, but I got a feeling it's somewhere much grayer and is much more leaning towards shoot. Just with the way Tony is Tony.
The way Tony is Tony.
Will you? Come on, man. Come on.
Although calling yourself the scapegoat is a pretty good comeback because that's exactly what Jack Perry is in this situation.
He really is. This is just wild stuff, man.
Wild stuff. More AEW news since we've got a lot of WWE on tap, obviously, tonight. Last time we talked, though, about Kenny Omega here on the show, it was a report that his condition had improved enough that they thought he might be able to avoid surgery. Unfortunately, things have taken many turns since then. His health has been up and down due to a battle with diverticulitis that at times has bordered on life-threatening, much less career-threatening. It's now being reported that a second physician has recommended surgery as the best option moving forward for Kenny Omega, especially considering that he intends to return to a full-time wrestling schedule. Supposedly, Omega is leaning heavily in the direction now of surgery so that he can get back into the ring, which he has been sidelined from since December. At least anyone thinks diverticulitis is a minor thing. Both Brock Lesnar and Davey Boy Smith Jr., just two wrestlers who famously battled diverticulitis, and in both instances, like Omega, were bordering on near life-threatening conditions. So not a joke. Get well soon to the cleaner. Hope it gets everything cleaned up and gets back in the ring.
Absolutely.
I didn't mean to do the cleaner pun, but
it happened. Sometimes these things just happen, man. They just get boom and they're out in the universe.
It is out there now. Speaking of out there now, we have a lot of new, actually just a lot of programming notes in general. And let's finish up our opening bell segment with a series of these since there are so many of them. First out, I know that we had previously reported the AEW Collision, in the midst of all of its ratings woes, was set to face WrestleMania head-to-head. That is no longer the case. They announced on Collision this week that it's a very good call. They will now air at 11:30 p.m., which still is very likely to intersect with the main events of Mania Night 1. However, they did not give a reason, and it was not specifically said that it was because of WrestleMania. In fact, a lot of folks believe it is more likely that it's because of the March Madness NCAA basketball championships, which will be winding down over the weekend and with the final game on April 1st. Whatever the calls, it's not going to hurt AEW to not go head to head for the entire 2 hours against WrestleMania. Still a good move.
Absolutely.
While talking AEW, the promotion now is making their pay-per-views available to U.S. fans on something other than Bleacher Report.
Good.
Exactly the point. Since AEW's inception, that is how you got the pay-per-views, is through Bleacher. But earlier this month, during Revolution, many fans reported major technical difficulties with Bleacher, causing AEW to do the unprecedented. I don't know, Doug. We didn't report on this. I didn't realize this, but apparently they made Revolution available on Triller, the former Fight TV, over an hour into the pay-per-view starting.
Really?
Yes, because they were having such trouble with Bleacher Report, they an hour in gave a feed on Fight TV that fans could order. They are available through Fight, or I guess now Triller, around the rest of the world, but just not domestically. But maybe they'd had enough of Bleacher and decided to move forward with moving it in the middle of the freaking pay-per-view.
Okay, that's a pretty boss move by Tony Khan to move it in the middle of a pay-per-view like that.
It is. And so I guess to avoid such things moving forward, to be ready for Dynasty here in April, AEW has announced you can purchase still via Bleacher, but also Triller, as well as payperview.com and YouTube. So the price is the same, but options are great for wrestling fans. Obviously, this is a temporary solution as AEW's contract with Warner Brothers Discovery expires later on this year, and it is widely believed that whether it's a re-sign with Warner or with someone else, it's very possible AEW's next TV deal is also going to include streaming rights for its pay-per-views if the new partner has the infrastructure to do so, of course. Obviously, they re-sign with Warner Brothers. You got HBO Max sitting there. Yes, it is branded Bleacher. It's a Bleacher hub, but you wouldn't have to rely on the Bleacher app, which I think tends to be the problem for a lot of fans.
Yes, absolutely. It is for this fan.
So good news. At least we got a temporary solution. We have other options you can go to other than Bleacher.
Cool.
WWE has announced the premiere of Next Gen, which is premiering tomorrow on the Roku channel. And for those not familiar, no, you do not have to own a Roku to watch the Roku channel. It's a free app.
That's good.
This marks the first deal that WWE has made with Roku and expands on their intent to have as many partners and places to watch content as possible. Next Gen's executive producer is one John Cena. It looks a lot like Tough Enough, but without the competition aspect. Instead, it's described as a docuseries focusing on how WWE recruits and turns young talents into superstars. The trailer shows coaches such as Shawn Michaels, Big E, Matt Bloom. Again, Next Gen debuts on Roku channel tomorrow, the same day that the new Bray Wyatt documentary premieres on Peacock. So big week heading into Mania.
Yeah.
And WWE is also introducing WWE Speed, which comes with a new title as well.
This title, man. Go ahead.
Speed title. It's a show that's an exclusive to X, formerly known as Twitter. It debuts Wednesday. Each match is only 3 minutes long, hence the show's name of Speed, kicking off with a tournament to crown the first Speed champion.
Wasn't it originally pitched to be matches up to 5 minutes, but apparently that was just way too long. So they cut it down to 3.
Ain't nobody got time for 5 minutes.
Come on.
Have you seen how much wrestling content is on this week? There's no time for 5-minute matches.
Yes. But, Musk is trying to push, X as like, an everything platform and have long form content on there. So is, 3 minutes? That ain't exactly
3 minutes
form, man.
It's not for a match. I don't know what kind of story you can tell in 3 minutes other than looking like you're just scrambling for things. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I'm not so sure about the longevity. Could be wrong.
Right. This is some sort of like, Zack Ryder internet championship we're going to have.
Hey, I'm glad you mentioned Zack Ryder because I didn't have him in the news. But yes, Matt Cardona did show up
yeah, he did.
to challenge Edge on Collision. So kudos to the indie wrestling god for being on AEW television. Let's see if it turns into something a little more permanent.
I want to see him in a death match with Edge now.
That would be awesome, actually.
I'm sorry, Adam Copeland.
We're going to end tonight's programming notes and our opening bell, just giving you the lay of the land as we go through everything that happens here in WrestleMania week. There is so much wrestling, a plethora of indie shows throughout the week. Everyone from Stardom, Defy, Progress, Game Changer Wrestling, they're all going to be in Philly. I know Doug is most excited, of course, about the Jeff Hardy concert that's going to be taking place in Philly. Uh,
Ready for some peroxygen? How were you saying that?
we don't have time, obviously. We don't have Twitter time and 3 minute match time here. So we're only going to hit some major shows and not the indie shows. But definitely, if you're an indie wrestling fan, you have your pick all week long. Major shows, of course, Ring of Honor are hosting Supercard of Honor on Friday, headlined by Eddie Kingston defending the ROH World title against Mark Briscoe. That should be a
Nice.
banger.
Yeah.
Peacock, of course, will have WrestleMania coverage starting at 5 o'clock on Friday. A WrestleMania kickoff is what they're calling it. Of course, SmackDown hits the air Friday in its normal time slot from Philly there on Fox. Immediately after, switch over to Peacock at 10 o'clock. Because then you'll see, obviously, the Hall of Fame, which we previewed in last week's show. Go check that out in the archives if you haven't seen that yet. Saturday on Peacock, NXT presents Stand and Deliver, which will air at noon, with the kickoff show beginning at 11 a.m. Do not sleep on this one, as it's likely to contain some of the very best matches of the weekend that are happening in Philly, including the expected headliner Carmelo Hayes versus Trick Williams to conclude a story they've been building for more than a year. So I'm excited about that one. If you have any energy left by the end of the day, turn over to Peacock again at 5 o'clock. That's right, 5 o'clock. That is when night one's countdown to WrestleMania show begins. The pay-per-view itself starts an hour earlier this year at 7 p.m. And those same times hold true for Sunday's broadcast. Of course, both nights of Mania will air exclusively on Peacock. And then, of course, technically speaking, after the weekend, but Monday is usually considered the end of WrestleMania weekend. Raw, the weekend after WrestleMania, is often wild with all the international fans in attendance. Usually considered the start of a new season. So will we see NXT debuts, other surprises, a lot of good things to look forward to, a lot of excitement in the world of wrestling. Wanted to get you up to speed, though, on when you can tune into everything. Stay tuned into our broadcast, though, and we'll tell you how to tune into us, where the Two Bros Wrestling Show will be all weekend long.
All weekend long. All WrestleMania, all weekend long.
All
Wow.
weekend long.
It's a whole lot of wrestling.
It is a whole lot of wrestling, Doug. We better get to previewing it.
Let's do it.
All right. We have nights one, we have nights two. We are a week away, and there are some matches that aren't official yet that we can pretty much expect are likely to happen. Doug, I'd like to start with one of those. It's not yet official, but it seems very likely to happen. And that is the Final Testament, which, of course, is Authors of Pain and Karrion Kross's stable taking on Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. They've been brawling each other for a while now. It's a way to get 6 people into the onto the card, get a payday. We haven't heard anything about a Andre the Giant Battle Royal. Sometimes they've had that on WrestleMania Friday. They may still do that. On WrestleMania proper, I expect this to be a kickoff match.
I can see that.
Because it's obviously a minor thing, even though they've been feuding for months. I don't know, Doug. What do you think of the Karrion Kross faction? Does it feel like there's any steam there behind that one to you?
You know what? I really love Paul Ellering and Authors of Pain. I think it was a huge mistake to cut Paul out of that back in the day, and then really to drop AOP too. But this group together does not really click for me for whatever reason. It's just not clicking for me. So
they're not bad.
It's
not like they're bad. I think something about the name even. It's like it almost sounds like, okay, I'll give you one biblical apocalyptic reference. You got the Judgment Day. Exactly. You can't have both the Judgment Day and this one as well.
Testament. Yeah, it's just not clicking. And like you say, it's not that they're bad. I mean, all these guys in this faction are great individually and collectively. On paper, this looks like it totally should work, but I'm just not feeling it. I think, AOP needs to go off with Paul. Kross gets back to singles action and does his thing with Scarlett Bordeaux on his arm.
Now, I say all of that to say I agree that I don't think they're clicking. I don't know that means that they won't win. We're doing predictions here, and let's be honest. I feel like because they're not clicking, they need the win a lot more than a Bobby Lashley Street Profits team needs the win.
Agreed.
They're more established, unless it's just a flip of the coin. They don't care. They just want to make the crowd happy to start a kickoff, they might give it to the Street Profits and Bobby. But I'm thinking that this one actually goes to Karrion Kross and AOP.
Actually, I was thinking the same thing because they just like we just laid it out. Street Profits, Bobby Lashley. What do they got to lose here in this match? If they're trying to push this faction, they need to push this new faction, and the way to do that's with a win.
We got the Hills going over, in agreement here. Doug, let's move to one that is just recently made official. In fact, it was made official 2 nights ago.
All right.
That is Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee versus his son Dominic and Santos Escobar. Obviously, last year's WrestleMania had a pretty marquee match between the Mysterios. Couldn't go the same route this year, dipping their toe in that same well by having father versus son again. The added intrigue, though, for me, is the fact that you have a faction in the LWO and you have Rey out there trying to, make the big reveal as to who he's going to have from the stable. And he picks someone currently not in the stable that they just added.
The newest member of
Dragon Lee, who is absolutely the modern day Rey. I mean, it's perfect. But that look on Carlito's face, did you see that too?
Not cool.
Not cool, man.
Yes.
I think that there lies the seeds of a possible betrayal in this one. And, obviously Rey or Dragon Lee lose nothing. Considering Rey's status and the trajectory Dragon Lee is going to be on. But it definitely sets up an internal LWO feud. And because honestly, the Dominic thing being in Judgment Day and then now trying to be involved in this is almost like a stretch to make this match happen. And that's why I think that the Hills go over so that the faces have a storyline coming out of this to fight amongst themselves while Dominic pretends like he was never part of any of it.
Yes, that I hope we're not going to do this through the whole show, but or we are going to be in lockstep with these first two then, because I totally agree. I see Escobar getting the pin on Mysterio because of interference from Carlito.
Carlito could jump over, right? I mean,
right? Exactly. Yeah. And then Dirty Dom just walks out, like he was, like you said, like he was never there. Don't know what you're talking about.
says sorry to mommy.
Sorry, mommy. Right.
Doug, I don't know actually this next one. I know that we got a finalization of obviously Rey and Dragon Lee being, a tag team, that being a Mania match. This next one was strongly hinted at. I don't think it was made official, but it is Damage Control versus Bianca Belair, Naomi, and Jade Cargill. Or did they announce that one? I can't remember.
So I don't know that they've officially announced. I mean, we saw how SmackDown goes off the air, and if you've been anywhere on the internet this weekend and caught any wrestling stuff, you'll see those three Belair, Naomi, and Cargill pointing towards the WrestleMania sign, certainly indicating that it's happening. So I believe you're right. It is happening unofficially. But if we haven't got confirmation, I'm sure we will, maybe even as early as tomorrow night on Raw.
I know I used the analogy earlier of toe dipping, but I'm going back to it. Is this WWE's way of toe dipping Jade Cargill into a Mania audience match, but not expecting her to do a whole lot? Is this an extension of her Royal Rumble?
Yes, that is totally what I was thinking about this, because it's like, okay, I love that they finally debut her. I really love the look that she has, because I've said it before, she looks like Storm, and now they're working that into her angle. She is the Storm. She is the Storm of the WWE now. So that's great, but I still think there's something that's not quite there. It almost harkens back to her early days in the AEW, where it's like she's got the look, she's got the charisma, she's got it, but she doesn't quite get it, I think. And I think that's where we are.
You think she'd been lined up for a singles match had she been ready?
Yeah, I absolutely should have been lined up for a singles match had she been ready, but she has two top tier talents in there with her to walk her through it, and make sure that nothing goes wrong. With Belair and Naomi there, come on. You know,
There's part of me that, with the whole damage control storyline that you have playing out, you have the women's tag team champions who are not going to be defending the women's tag team titles at WrestleMania.
hmm
That always kind of bothers me. You know, it goes to Mercedes' points
right.
when she walked out before about the way that the titles are not held in the utmost esteem. I know why they've done this, though. It is to get Jade on the card,
Right.
and it is to get Jade, in my mind, a win. You're not going to
Yes.
put her in a match. Unlike the Royal Rumble, this is her first actual match, even if
hmm
it is a 6-person contest. She's not losing.
No, she's not. She's not losing. She's going to get the pin. She's going to get the win, and we're going to do this all night, I'm afraid. But she's going to get the pin. She's getting the win. This is to put her over wherever this falls on night one, night two. Wherever it falls, this is for her. This is her vehicle to introduce her to a larger audience and to show what she's got. Because I mean, the spots she did hit Friday night looked great. Boom, 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 made her look like $1,000,000. But they've got to continue doing that. They're going to do that whole Goldberg thing with her, which is, to accentuate her strengths and hide her weaknesses. This is going to and this is what you should be doing, with a talent. So,
Considering, though, in some ways, and I hate to, say that anything is a step down just because no one can stay at the top of a card. But for someone like Bianca, compared to headlining
right.
in nights before, this is kind of a lesser role for her. But I do think that there's a possibility that if she and Jay continue a partnership post this, that the eventual breakdown and meltdown that you can expect there will lead to something pretty big down the
Yes.
road.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, it's all right there. Even the girls on the hill side of this, the opposition, so much of a great so much of a great, group of talents to put together. It's going to be amazing all around to see what comes out of this, but this is a vehicle. This 6 woman is a vehicle for Jade. Absolutely.
Talk about all kinds of talent, Doug. Let's move next to the WWE Tag Team Championship match. It is a
Wow.
6-person. Is 6-person? No, 6-team.
6 teams. Yeah, we're there going to be 12 bodies flying around, and this is a ladder match too. It's a ladder match. It's a
Six-pack ladder
tag
match.
team, a 6 team tag ladder. I'm getting all the adjectives all screwed up here, but there could be 12
Uh,
people flying around. It's going to be a car wreck, you know?
it's going to be a car wreck. The champs, Judgment Day, are defending against DIY, the New Day, Awesome Truth, A Town Down, and the New Catch Republic. Doug, I typically think that we have like way too many of these multi-person matches on your big cards, trying to get people payday.
Right.
I honestly don't hate this. I would prefer a tag team feud where one team has been in pursuit for a while, but barring that, when you look at the strength of the rest of the card, this is a way to not only give people some time to shine, it's a way to present something a little different. I think by adding the ladder aspect of it, you got yourself your typical TLC kind of match that's going to be a different
hmm
presentation than everything else on the night. Yes, it'll be a car crash. Yes, bodies will be flying literally. The replays the next night on or the Monday on
Right.
Raw and Friday on SmackDown are going to have several from
hmm
this match when someone does something death defying.
Yep.
And I think the crowd will eat it up. This will be just
Oh,
an
absolutely.
action fest. Predicting 6-team matches a whole lot harder. There's part of my heart that would love to see DIY walk out of
Me
there,
too. Me too.
but I don't think they will, man.
I don't think they will. I think New Day will lose. I don't know who New Day will lose to though, because New Day will lose. I can say that with confidence. I would love to say New Day will lose to DIY, but I just don't know. This one is hard for me to call. I really don't know. I've joked before that it's going to be Awesome Truth, walking out of, but I just don't know. I want to see it be New Day, or if or not New Day, yeah, or
DIY,
new
man.
DIY, or even New Cash Republic. Even though I hate that name. Yeah.
I would be fine with either of those guys winning. I actually, if I, again, a crapshoot when you talk 6 teams, but if I had to put money on one, I would say that Judgment Day will retain. And everyone else will
Okay.
cancel themselves out. I think we're going to have some really fan friendly finishes to some of our other matches on the top of the card to balance things out between heels and face wins and losses. I
All
think
right.
there's a chance that they let Judgment Day retain here.
Oh, that's it. That's it. Okay. I'm glad we're not in lobstack. Lockstep.
I don't know what that is, but we're not in that.
It's water. It's just water. It really is.
So if you had to pick, not from your heart, from your gut of who you put your money on, who do you think has who you going with for a prediction?
I'm gonna go with New Cash Republic. New Day loses and New Cash Republic comes out on top.
So you think then, and not only does New Catch come out on top, you think that the only one that doesn't have a shot at winning this is New Day. You think that they're the
Yeah,
ones that
I think we start to see a this may start a dissolution, the dissolvement of New Day, or at least hint of it, of some strife within New Day, and
fair enough.
it starts right here.
Fair enough.
And plus, we also
Um,
got Dirty Dom, running around doing, covert operations with the, what are they called? El Tag, something Phantasmo. But anyway, this is where it starts, man, right here, because communication is key. These guys aren't communicating right now. Mommy said it. Communication is key.
there you go. Doug, let's move next to what do you say? Let's talk Intercontinental Championship.
Okay. All right.
You got Gunther in his
Mhm.
record title reign, and then he's defending against Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
Sami had to run a gauntlet just to get this opportunity, and there is this whole underdog storyline they're building of Sami being on a losing streak prior to this. And you got Chad Gable telling Sami Zayn he doesn't
Right.
have what it takes to beat Gunther. Doug, I think Sami Zayn's beating Gunther.
You think so? See,
I do.
I think that would be great, but Sammy had his moment at WrestleMania last year. Not saying you cannot have back to back WrestleMania moments, but it, and maybe I'm applying a bit of meta knowledge here, knowing that we're going into some WWE stuff later in the year, where we're going to have like Germany shows and European shows where Gunther is going to need to be near the top of the card. Maybe I don't think it's time for him to drop the belt just yet. Although that would be a way to catapult him forward into like the world title scene if he drops this belt now. I don't think Gunther's dropping the belt just yet.
See, we're not in lockstep.
Perfect. I'm glad.
I
There's some
think
disagreement.
for me, I think that last year it seemed so likely that,
Hmm.
I mean, maybe not likely, but
Yeah.
possible that the insurmountable challenge of Roman Reigns, he would be losing to the popular underdog Sami Zayn. Yes,
Right.
Sami ended up winning a match at WrestleMania. It wasn't the match that we
No.
had all
Right.
originally wanted for Sami. I don't want to call it a consolation prize because it's anything. Gunther is anything but that.
Right.
But
Right.
Gunther has Gunther is the current insurmountable challenge. I
Hmm.
think that Sami gets a silver in the Olympics this year.
That's some good storytelling. I don't disagree with the storytelling there. It's good.
But I
It's
will agree with you that one way or the other, Gunther's got to be in main events and not on the intercontinental
hmm
level at some point soon.
right. Yeah, if he does something like Samoa Joe and just drops the Intercontinental on his own and says, you know what, I'm done with this. I've done everything I can do with it. I'm going for something else, and just vacates the title to move on up the card. That would be a great way to go.
Actually, I would not hate that at all.
Yeah.
To give it up without actually losing anything,
Right.
keep that mystique of however many years now it's been since he's
Yeah.
been defeated. I
Right.
like that booking a lot. Booking I like a lot. Good segue for this next one. Not a title match. I think actually one of the last, no, not the last one that isn't a title match, but it's again a consolation prize, right? So LA Knight was like for most
Yeah.
of 2023 the hottest act in the business and was at the top of the card. Now, you can't be at the top of the card all the time. Mania is really top heavy this year. You need something for LA Knight to do that is still meaningful. You pair him off against a legend like AJ Styles. And you know, AJ was off for a good bit of time, so he's not been back forever. But I like this matchup. I like that it's a singles contest. I like that. Actually, I like everything about it. I like the dashboard cam footage of, you know, LA Knight and AJ Styles tussling around the front of the house with the cops trying to break it up. I mean, as far as wrestling realism goes, I mean, those are, you know, some good moves they've done to paint this as something bigger than what it really is, which is you know, a match with not a lot on the line. I'd say though that maybe ranks are on the line here, and LA Knight still has a ceiling he needs to hit, whereas AJ Styles has been there, done that. Can survive the loss a little better. I think if you're not going to have LA Knight in a title situation, you have to have him at least go over in this one.
And I think AJ is a great corporate guy. You know, just like people joke about Rollins being a hardcore corporate guy. I think AJ fits that mold too. AJ is going to go in and do his job, and I think his job in this one is to not that LA Knight needs to go over, but to put LA Knight over in this. You know, and push him forward because, like you say, AJ's not got nothing to lose. He's AJ Styles. You know,
AJ Styles. Yeah. This one has a chance to be a sleeper, like one of those that no one's going to go into this saying this is the match I'm most looking forward to this weekend, but it might be the match that gets talked about afterwards with some surprise. I think with AJ Styles, any match has a chance to go 4 stars plus, and I think LA Knight is going to be inspired enough to bring his A game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doug, let's move on to the United States Championship. We have Logan Paul,
my favorite wrestler.
It is Doug's. It is your favorite celebrity / wrestler. Of course, it's not even hardly fair to call him a celebrity anymore.
Right?
He's really shown athleticism.
I mean, the kid understands the business. I've seen interviews with Taker. Have you seen the interview with Taker where he's talking about him and saying, pretty much he's got his, if he would just apply it, Mean Mark is leaning into it and saying, if the kid would just, basically go full time, take some time and apply to the craft, he would be it. You can't get much better than a sign off like that from Taker. Of course, there is that like bit of disdain while he's talking about, well, if you just get in there and do it, and apply himself. I mean, it is. But I mean, this
may be a fair take.
I don't think it's definitely not a hot take by the Undertaker, but this one for me is hard, man. This one is really hard. I think Logan loses to who? I don't know. I just don't know. This is hard for me to call.
KO and Randy Orton are the other two. And I actually wouldn't disagree with you. I think Logan Paul holds on.
Really?
I do.
Okay, cool.
Yep, I do.
I don't dislike that at all because I'm thinking, I don't know. Maybe
I'm afraid that KO and Randy cancel each other out a little bit.
Yeah, they might get in each other's way. It just
they have a history.
Yes, they do.
And Logan Paul tends to win his matches usually more by hook and crook than straight up. So the advantages of a triple threat for the heel is that there are no rules, which is always a dumb thing. Like you can't be disqualified. So
right.
His whole crew getting involved, Randy and KO getting in each other's way. There's no disqualification. It would not surprise me to see Logan Paul retain the title that way.
That's interesting.
But if you think he's going to lose it to, if you think he's losing, who's the more likely? The legend?
I think KO. I think KO takes it. If I'm going to have to call this, which is what you're telling me.
Yep.
Logan Paul loses.
It's my job as a wrestling journalist to hold your feet to the fire.
Logan Paul does lose to KO, even if KO and RKO do bump heads, eventually KO still comes out on top somehow by even though there's the hook by crook and all that good fun stuff. Maybe just maybe here's how I would book this, because in my mind it's time for Logan Paul to do his celebrity thing and go away for a while, unless he's going to lean into the WWE and be a full-time wrestler for a while. But I think it's time for him to go away for a while again. The best way to do that is with some wacky shenanigans, which end up with KO pinning Randy Orton. Then there's a feud built in there, and Logan Paul is out of the picture for a while because it's time for him to go away and do his celebrity stuff. And that's how I'd book it if I had to. And that's how I'm saying it's going down.
Fair enough. More disagreement, which is good.
I like it.
I think we'll both be in agreement on this next one, Doug, and that is that the winner of this next contest is going to be an Uso.
Yes, regardless of how this works out, an Uso will win this match.
You got Jimmy, you got Jay, the two twins. You didn't get cousin versus cousin this year. You're getting brother versus brother,
right?
Bloodline business. Interesting that this one is one of the matches that does not yet have an assignment night 1 or night 2, as far as we know. I would think, since we know for sure we got Bloodline business happening in the tag team match on night 1, it would make sense that this would be a night 2, but it's hard to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, we got Bloodline business night 2 as well. We'll see, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to call this, but I will say this. I think Jay goes over. I think Jay's got a lot of momentum right now, and I think, main event Jay Uso has a future once the tribal chief is brought down. However that happens, whether Cody gets to finish his story or not this WrestleMania. I'm pretty sure there will be people rioting in Philly if Cody doesn't, but
I'm not sure how that it worked out this way, that Jay's got a singles career and that Jimmy isn't seen. I mean, skill wise, they're pretty even. Charisma wise, they're very even too. But I agree with you. For some reason, maybe it's the main event gimmick or what have you, but the main event Jay Uso, maybe being on Raw by himself for a little bit, he seems to me now like a singles wrestler, whereas I still think of Jimmy as a tag team guy.
Yep. Totally agree with you there. Jimmy's still a tag team. And maybe that's by design by Jimmy. Maybe he wants to stick around and help little brother out now. Maybe that's where he's comfortable, while Jay wants to, stretch his wings and fly in the singles arena for a while. I don't know.
But I do think we're both in agreement then it's the Jay of the Usos that'll be going over in this one.
Yes, sir.
Doug, we want to divide up the things we know that are night 1 and night 2 and call those. So that leaves 2 matches that we have to talk about that are not yet designated for either night 1 or night 2. Interestingly enough, they are the women's world title matches, both of them. I mean, it makes sense that you would have one on Sunday and one on Saturday, but we don't know which is happening where. So let's start with the women's world championship, which is champion Rhea Ripley defending against the man, Becky Lynch. Becky earned her title shot through winning the Elimination Chamber. Rhea has held that title off for a very, she's been a very dominant champion. I hate to bet against the man. I'm actually thinking Rhea maintains here.
Rhea maintains. Yes, Rhea, I almost said she maintains. Retains. Yeah, mommy's not dropping that belt yet. She's going to keep right on going as the champion.
I mean, I think that part of my rationale for it is not just because of how good Rhea's been, and obviously Becky Lynch is fantastic. It's nothing against Becky, but it ties into the other women's match, because I do think if we're in agreement here, let's move to the next one. I think we might be in agreement on this one too, because this one to me is just as obvious. Actually, Rhea Becky's less obvious. This one is to me more obvious. Bayley is going to get a huge pop when she wins that world title, gets revenge on Io.
Absolutely. She's going to get a massive pop when she, again, this is Doug booking things in his mind, and I'm talking about myself in the third person, like I'm The Rock or something all of a sudden. But anyway, I see her coming out to like the big air things like she used to, little Izzy, who's all grown up and a wrestler herself now, comes out with her, takes her to the ring. This is just, it's such a great story to tell. And then she completely goes over, takes that belt from EO, and you're a new women's champion, Bailey.
For all that Bailey has done in the business, and everyone considers her one of the greatest women's wrestlers of her generation, it's almost easy to overlook the fact that this is one thing she's not really done, and that is have a spotlight match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It almost feels like surely that has to be wrong that she has, but no, she's not. And you could hear the groundswell in the crowd at Elimination Chamber. The most popular of faces were getting boos if they did anything that was harming Bailey, who at that time was not even truly on the face side of things yet. The fans want this to happen regardless of what the character is portrayed as, heel or face. It would not have mattered. She was going to be a heel with whatever crowd she was in front of. This has to happen. Io's been a great champion, though, and I think it'll be a great women's match.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The talent here, amazing talent on both sides. It's just going to be it's such a release, for Bailey to come full circle and to be, a baby face again, full on baby face Bailey. It's been a while. It's been a really long time.
It's been a really long time. Doug, with that, we have all of our non-designated matches coming up, but we got those covered. Now let's talk about the matches we know in the order that we know they will be taking place. We only have one match that is certainly happening on night one.
Yep.
That's Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins taking on The Rock and Roman Reigns. One of the biggest tag matches in WrestleMania history. It is something that will have implications for night two and the night two main event. So if Rhodes and Rollins win here, the Bloodline are going to be nowhere in sight for the championship match on Sunday. However, if the Bloodline wins this one, then it's Bloodline rules. Anything goes. Cody and Roman night two.
Yeah. What exactly are Bloodline rules? Do we know? I mean, or is it just like, is it just no DQ, anything goes? Or are there specific Bloodline rules to Bloodline rules? Or it's like Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is there's no Fight Club. Same thing here.
I have ordered my copy of the Bloodline rulebook. And,
okay, cool.
Yeah, 2 days shipping though, so I will have to get back with you on that. I'm going to guess it's just that anything goes. Whatever the Bloodline decides they want to do, they're going to do. I think that because of that, it adds some intrigue to night two. It stacks the deck even farther against Cody.
And it has to be a part of Cody's story. He has to have yet more adversity to overcome on his way to finishing his story. I said this, a long time ago. Cody hadn't, I'm not gonna say he hadn't earned it yet, but he had to establish things. And I think last year Brock Lesnar was a big part of him earning all that. He's gone through this, he's gone through this, he's done this, he's done this. He's beat Lesnar. He's won the Royal Rumble back to back now. There's this nonsense about giving it to Rock, but then take it away from Rock. Rock is going to end up pinning Cody on night one because both your title holders cannot get pinned, before their matches. Rock will pin Cody. There will be shenanigans.
Further stack the deck.
Absolutely. There'll be shenanigans before Rock gets that pin, but Rock will get that pin going into night two. Cody has all this adversity to overcome, but we'll talk about night two in a minute. At least that's how I'm calling that.
I don't think it will be spotless. I think that we will see the seed planted for the tension that will be to come between Rock and his cousin Roman. But I do think that they go over because it just makes sense for night two, honestly.
Yeah.
And, I have to say that it's a tightrope the WWE is walking. Everyone's still very invested, obviously, but they're getting very, very close to people wanting to see Rock versus Cody more than they want to see Cody versus Roman. Rock has been that good and that charismatic. So I do think that they need to make sure in this next week of programming to put the focus back on your tribal chief, and that too sets up the next story to come for everyone involved. But
Absolutely, yeah,
definitely you got the faces going down here on that one.
yeah. A little side note, I love the final boss character that The Rock's got going on right now. But I
Not
get,
everybody does.
but I get a email from the t-shirt company, the wrestling t-shirt company saying, "Hey, check out the new Samoa Joe t-shirt." And it's
Yeah.
Samoa Joe, Samoan submission receipt, final boss. Yeah, AEW champion. And I'm like, oh, okay, now he's the final boss too.
I mean, I guess it depends on which game you're playing.
I guess.
If you're doing 2K or Fight Forever, as to who your final boss actually is going to
Who
be.
indeed is the final boss? Ah,
Doug, let's go to night two. We got two matches that we know for certain are happening on night two. Both are happening on night two because of the match that's happening on night one.
yep.
That's why they've designated it the way that they have in advance. Let's start with the World Heavyweight Championship. Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre. McIntyre has been the unsung hero. It's easy to pay attention to the baby face that is Cody
Yes.
Rhodes. It's easy to get involved in the bloodline business that has been so compelling. Paul Heyman, of course, is a god on the mic. And then down somewhere in the middle of the card, just stealing the scenes every time he's
Every time.
matched up with any of these guys. Drew freaking McIntyre, man, needs to
Right.
be rewarded, and I think he will be. I think he's going to walk away the champ, and Seth is going to be distracted in bloodline business, and Drew will be able to rightly, even though it's going to be done in a heelish fashion, he'll be able to gloat afterwards that you took your eye off the ball and you became easy pickings because of it.
And not only that, we're going to give Seth a bit more of an out because of all the damage that he will receive the night before. And, having to fight off not just Rock and Roman with Cody, but other members of the bloodline, whoever they may be at that point.
And again, though, that gives Drew McIntyre, the heel, the truth still in his mouth when he goes and says, "It's your
Exactly.
own fault, idiot." I
Yeah.
mean,
You're the one that's
it's not your
injected
fight.
yourself into this business. You did
Yeah,
this to yourself.
he,
Absolutely.
he will be the comic book supervillain that will be
You will.
speaking the truth.
Yes. Tell him when he's telling lies, Kevin.
You agree with me then? Drew
Yeah,
has got
I
this one
do.
wrapped up.
I do.
Which leaves us with one, Doug,
And
the
then there's one.
undisputed WWE Universal Championship. You have two-time Royal Rumble winner. Didn't think he was going to have this match despite winning the Royal Rumble. Oh, yes, the fans want him in there. Finish that story. Roman Reigns has been champ for like 20 years. How is this one going down? I think we're both in agreement that there will be bloodline rules, which will
Yep.
allow The Rock to be in appearance again on night two,
Absolutely.
which you have to have. You have to
Yeah.
have Rock on both
Absolutely.
nights.
Yeah.
But how does it shake out? The odds stacked against him, against the guy who never loses. At one point, Doug Hager made the prediction when we had our first show of the year. The bold prediction was that Roman Reigns would still be standing as your champion by the end of 2024.
So
Does that involve a change happening at Mania and then a change back to Roman Reigns, or does Roman just keep marching straight on through?
so I did say that, didn't I? And while I would love for that to be accurate, it's not going to happen now. There's too much momentum behind Cody for that to happen. But here's the thing I'm a little hung up about is that there's a lingering money in the bank briefcase out there.
That's true.
A lot of champions are going to be beat down by the end of night two. Cody's going to win. He's going to overcome all the odds. He's going to win. And then it's almost this would cause the fans to riot too. But I have this bit of fantasy booking in my head that at that point, that's when Priest cashes in his money in the bank, not on Seth or during the Seth McIntyre, but on this Cody Roman, because both of them are beat down, and he can get in there, get a quick win with the Judgment Day, maybe, or maybe he doesn't communicate with the Judgment Day. He goes into business for himself, gets in there, and you can almost see those shades of Dusty in MSG when he has the belt for like, a minute or two, but then it's taken from him. You know, tell me that does nothing but continue Cody's story.
I was going to say that. I mean, that would not be finishing the story. That would
No, it wouldn't
be.
be finishing the story, but Cody finishes part of the story. Only they had the story continue. And again, that's just some fantasy booking. Is that going to happen? I highly doubt it, because again, the fan momentum behind Cody and this Rock nonsense that they tried to flip the script on there and have Cody just give it over and say, I'll finish my story later. There's somebody else. That clearly did not work. So, Philadelphia burns to the ground if Cody does not walk out of there champion, though.
That's the thing. They were one time willing to give up this match entirely to
Yeah.
go a different direction for WrestleMania, and the fans wouldn't let it happen. Do you think that just then, I mean, I guess it is what you're saying, is because of the fan support, there is no way they will let it happen 2 years in a row? Because
Yeah.
the air was a little out of the bag last year, because we all were kind of predicting the same thing, that this looked pretty obvious. And it was actually, I mean, we jumped on afterwards and here on air, and you were, you loved the fact that
I think I
they
may have
gave
been
us
giddy.
you
Yeah.
were,
Yeah.
and the rest of the Mania crowd was more deflated. There's
Mm-hmm.
definitely more of a groundswell of support this
Absolutely.
year for Cody. Could they even get away with doing the surprise Roman win 2 years in a row?
I don't think so. I would love to see it, actually, because I would love to see, Roman be, that Bruno San Martino like 62-year champion. But I just don't see it happening 2 years in a row.
I don't know too that the bloodline having all the odds stacked in their favor doesn't somehow backfire, and that the
Right.
Rock doesn't somehow trigger that keeps
Mm-hmm.
him and Roman in the next thing, so that Cody can move on with a different story.
Yeah.
But the end of the night, there's fireworks going off, and Cody Rhodes is standing in the middle of a stadium with, I'm sure, real tears
Mm-hmm.
flowing down his face, and probably this old Mark trying to come on air right afterwards and not be doing the same, because I mean, you don't even have to be the world's biggest Cody fan. This has been compelling. It's going to
It
be
has
something when
been.
he wins. It'll be a good end to the story.
It really will be it. And I hate to say it, but I've come around to Cody during this. It took the WWE universe and Rock to bring me around to this. And did you read that Cody just pinned a new signed a new contract with
Yeah.
WWE?
Yeah.
So that that kind of bodes well for Cody's chances at WrestleMania too, I would think.
I think there's a lot boding well for Cody right now, including the
Yeah.
fact that these two guys, after months and months of like realizing that, okay, when we do these prediction shows, it's foolish to bet against Roman Reigns. We're both on the same page on this one, that even though there's been a few times in the past that it seemed like it might be time, this really does feel like it's time.
Yeah.
And Cody's the right person for the job.
Cody is the right person. Yeah. It's time.
If you disagree with us, put it in the comments. Let us know. We're willing to reconsider. But Doug and I are in lockstep on the main event. That night too will end with Cody holding that belt up high.
Oh, you see this? You see this from Scott? What if the bloodline turn on Roman?
I wouldn't be surprised if at least one of them does. But what if they all go for the Rock?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. What if the tribal chief it's his time? There's it's the
Yeah.
final boss. Not the tribal chief.
I mean, that's irritating Roman, because the final boss just, I mean, is that less than the tribal chief? It almost seems like he's too equivocal there
Yep.
for Roman's liking. It wouldn't surprise me a bit if there is at least one turn, but it would be interesting if they all went with
and
Rock.
and really, I think in Samoan culture to usurp the tribal chief is, all it is acknowledgement. So if the rest of the bloodline acknowledges a new chief, what's Roman to do?
Many stories are colliding at WrestleMania. We had a whole
Yep.
show on all those stories that are colliding. In a week's time, we're going to know the answers to all this, which is exciting to see how it all wraps up for these individuals that are on this collision course. Doug, we're going to be with everybody the whole way. We'll get to that here in a moment. But before we talk about our WrestleMania schedule, let's talk Big Finish. What do you say?
Big Finish. Let's do it.
Botch of the week.
You know what? Raw was so perfect on Monday
Oh,
night. I cannot, anything else that happened throughout the wrestling world that I called anyway, it was okay. I can't call out anything. If I did call out something, it would be, please let Mercedes Monet actually do something besides walk around and talk at this point. But that's just a minor complaint. I don't need her on commentary. I don't need her talking in the ring. I need her to do something now. You know, but again, that's just a
that's a
minor
complaint.
that's a minor complaint. I'm not calling it a botch. That's just what it is. What Raw, I think, made up for any other things in wrestling this week.
My botch of the week is AEW, and it was Dynamite. So I'm not calling out the EVP trigger botch because that was a really
Right.
bad EVP trigger. But the worst part is Rick Knox counting the pin despite both Jacksons holding the man down. I know rules are non-existent in AEW. They don't even pretend that to care about the rules. That bothers me when they do stuff like that. How hard would it be for Rick Knox to tell Matt to get out of the ring and then count the pin? Just those little things irritate me. And then while I'm at it, and you mentioned Mercedes Monet, the booking of her coming out right after that, I realized that, okay, wait a minute. You have a character that's the EVP coming, the characters that are the EVPs, followed by the CEO. I hear they're repackaging Miro as the director of human resources. That happens next week. I don't know. It felt particularly ridiculous for some reason to me.
God, if it would get him on TV, I'd buy into the gimmick.
That's true. Where is Miro?
Where is Miro?
Performer of the week, Doug.
I got 3: Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and Drew McIntyre. That was gold, what they did, especially McIntyre. Punk, that interplay between, oh, wait, you're the chosen one? Who named you the chosen one? Come on.
CM Punk got off a Vince McMahon dig on WWE television.
Not only that, he shuts out Cornette. And the entire group, the collective of Raw was just on fire. There were so many just like little zingers there. Pat McAfee mentioning at one point how Ricochet is like a puma. Like, oh my God, that's a Prince Puma. That is a underground reference.
Man, that is exactly what I was calling out him for last week, is the fact that he can make those references that still make sense if you don't get it, and is not all insider baseball that alienates those that don't dig in. But if you do get the Easter eggs, he drops them like pearls all the time. Dude is fantastic. I hope he calls Mania.
Yes, absolutely. But just things like that happen all night. But in particular, those 3 dudes were on fire, man. I mean,
while I can't agree with those 3 dudes, I'm going with the ending segment, because to your point, it was one of the best episodes of Raw, top to bottom, that we've seen in a long time.
Yes.
And the main event, as it were, which was the segment, is one of the reasons why Rock and Cody have Rock, one of the best talkers in the history of the business, come out earlier, say next to nothing, leave the fans who, even though they should hate him, now really hate him because we want to hate you verbally and still get your, a piece of the gimmick. You're not giving that to us. And then for him to stick around to give that brutal beatdown, where we find out later on that the blade job that Cody did is basically another example of Vince McMahon not being there, and Triple H and WWE apparently, while not going to the extreme that AEW does, under certain conditions and
Mm-hmm.
certain, if it plays, we're going blood.
Right. If it
And
makes sense,
it
sure.
it made sense here. It reminded
Absolutely.
me of Prime Attitude Era segment. That ending segment
Absolutely.
was Attitude Era.
I took my son to get a haircut on Saturday, and the guys where we go to the barbershop, Jewel City Barbershop. You guys should check them out if you're in the Jewel City around here. But all those guys, they were actually at the last AEW show that we were at in Charleston. But they're talking about that segment, and we were all talking about how it was so Attitude Era back to where was it, Austin Rock, was it
Oh yeah,
Pittsburgh, where the belt actually goes
over
in the
the
water.
bridge.
We were all
Yep,
thinking Cody was going over into that whatever that
same. I did
yeah,
too. I thought he was going over, but then
yeah,
he
I mean,
didn't.
but
But he still got busted open, which is on
it's
WWE television a shock.
it absolutely, but it was so old school, so attitude, so Attitude Era.
The adult language, the extreme violence, it did not feel like a cartoon made for kids, which on his worst habits, Vince McMahon would write to that audience.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that was compelling for all involved. I could not be more excited about WrestleMania because of this segment, which again, I mentioned it earlier, it teeters very close to me to, I think, making fans want to see Brock Cody
Mm-hmm.
as much as they want to see Cody Roman. But it was just great fan service all the way around.
Yes, it was.
Doug, we're going to end on match of the week.
Not because of Tony Khan, but I got to get my paycheck every week, so
You've already made him really
I,
mad for most of this episode.
I really have. But and this more speaks to the talent he has than the whatever he's doing right now. Because anyway, and you know what? Now that I think about it, this could be a botch. How do you have Will Ospreay and Shibata, in an opening match where you're just like, oh, hey, here you go. Here's something 7-8 years in the making that we're just going to give away on free TV at the head of the show. But wow, goodness, what a match it was! And then you put that history with them in there. That was my match of the week right there. Osprey and Shibata to open up Dynamite on Wednesday night.
It was a fantastic match. I'm going a different way though. For my match of the week, if you didn't see NXT on Tuesday night, go check out Dijak versus the returning Sean Spears, who is back in the WWE fold, to show how deep a roster is. What they have going on in NXT right now is just ridiculous. There's so many men and women on that brand that if there was room and things for them to do, would hang on the main rosters quite well. As we see happening with your Carmelo Hayes and your Roxanne Perez and Tiffany Stratton, when now that she's moved over, Braun Breaker's moved over, like we've graduated so many that there's just not enough spots for these folks. Dijak is a big man who is athletic, can move. Sean Spears, excellent in the ring, and's got a fire underneath him since he's come back from AEW.
Nice.
Definitely worth checking out, but check out Doug's match as well. I wouldn't complain about either of those. If you have time for two matches this week, watch them both.
Which I realized puts Shibata in my match of the week 2 weeks in a row. So
Anytime that man is in the ring, there's a chance for a match of the week.
absolutely.
What
Wow.
will be the matches of the weekend, Doug? That is the
What
next
will?
question to happen.
My
Two
goodness.
bros here got you covered. You have a lot of wrestling. We mentioned earlier all the shows that are running, and we didn't even break down all the indie shows that are running. But make us a part of your WrestleMania weekend plans. We will be watching along right with you. As soon as the big event ends on Saturday, we will be live with our review of night one. When the big event ends on Sunday, we will be live again for our hot takes on night two. We
Yes.
want to talk to you all about what you think of the shows this weekend, the winners and losers, the matches themselves. Tune in. Two bros, two shows.
Two bros, two shows. WrestleMania weekend. It's that time of year, folks.
It's game time, guys. We'll see you
See
late,
you.
I'm sure, on Saturday
I'm
night.
sure. Yes. Go watch some wrestling, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.